Good afternoon. Just a wrap-up of the Grand Rapids City Council meeting for Monday, December 11th, 2017. Work session this afternoon was kind of short. We've been working for months on our budget preparation, and last week on the 4th we went through and we had our public hearing on our truth in taxation. What we did this evening at our work session was just to do some final review of the numbers, where we sat, and the council was comfortable with what we have for a levy presentation that was going to come up later this evening in regular council action. So there were some questions around Mount Itasca and funding that was on the budget initially that was taken off the budget to support the increased funding request that's going to be a result of the structural issue at the IRA Civic Center, that we do not have a total cost yet on what that project's going to run, but the feeling was that we needed to move as much and as many different funds around as we could in order to compensate for some of those costs. Just a couple of things on the consent agenda. We approved the transfer of some funds for the capital projects fund, the amount of $280,000 for that Civic Center fund. We had a public hearing and a feasibility report for the Northeast Improvements projects. Now I have got some feedback on some sidewalk additions. This is up in Northeast, so you take on, I believe it's 8th avenues or north-south, so 8th Street as it comes across. There was a look and a need to try and determine whether or not sidewalks in that area are necessary. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what happens with the school bond and whether or not we close 11th, which goes along the backside of the middle school and the sports complex. If there's a desire to do some land swapping there and there's a school that's put in there, one of the grade schools, that street could be closed, which would drive 8th to be a corridor, reliever corridor, and with that would certainly drive the necessity to probably have a sidewalk along there based on traffic flow. So we'll continue to look at that. There will be a meeting coming up in January to have that discussion, January 22nd, at a public hearing. So if you're interested in that project and wondering why, if you're up in that neighborhood, and I know Skip Drake and Sackett's and some others had specifically talked to me, and they have valid concerns and questions, that's the time to come forward and let's discuss that at the January 22nd public hearing. We renewed a license. We're working with the police reserves on some donations once again. It's amazing the people of Grand Rapids, whether it's businesses or individuals, they're giving capabilities to help support some of these projects, Shop with a Hero, police reserves, and some of those things. So, at the regular meeting this evening, we had a couple of interesting ones. As you know, that the city's bond rating had changed from an A- to a AA-, which is a great improvement based on our financial outlook. So Barb Baird was in and Rebecca Kurtz from Ehlers. We were combining. There was a desire and a need from a savings standpoint to combine 5 bonds down to 1. Initially what you get is, from an administration standpoint, we save about $1,500 initially just on the internal management of work that goes into those payments and stuff, around 5 down to 1. On the other side, the combination of refinancing those 5 amounted to $3,045,000. The end result is going to be that it's probably going to be closer to the $3,920,000, but we took council action this evening at the $3,045,000 due to some funding adjustments that will be made from Ehlers coming back. So we know it's not going to be at the $3,045,000, but it's going to be closer to the 2.92. What it's going to do long term is it's going to give us a savings at the city of about, over the course of the bonds, of about $243,000. We got the interest rate down to 2.29%, which is a great interest rate over that period of time. And the successful bidder was Northland Securities out of the Twin Cities. So once again, that was a great opportunity to leverage our city's rating from a bond standpoint and go out there and look at how can we best save money for not only the residents, but businesses and stuff in the city of Grand Rapids. Also on the finance side this evening, we approved the following resolutions: the 2017 tax levy payable in 2018, the 2018 general fund revenue expenditure budget, the multiple 2018 special revenue fund budgets. There's about 7 or 8 of them in there that were all approved this evening, and the 2 enterprise fund 2018 budgets. It's the result of, it sounded like it went very quick this evening, but you got to remember that this is the result of staff working 4 or 5 months, well, they actually work year-round from the start of it. Councilmember Christie asked that question, when were they going to start on the 2019 budgets, and they really are always looking forward to the next year, as well as what's going on in this year's budget. But the work never seems to end. But the council gets involved with it right at about the summer months kind of a time period, and we sit down periodically with department heads and we review what their requests and stuff are from a budget standpoint. We work numbers up and down based on needs, and at the end of the year, what happened tonight in a very orderly and speedy process will happen again in 2018, looking at the 2019 ones. Then in administration, unfortunately, sometimes you have to reduce staffing in order to meet needs of the cities. And the city's needs in the enterprise fund at the golf course was that they were looking at a position elimination. So unfortunately, we had to eliminate a position out there, an employee with 36 years, and we only hope for the best for that employee as he goes out. We'll work with him on employment opportunities as he requests us to give, whether it's a letter of recommendation or whatever, but it's a necessity sometimes that any organization goes through when you have to go through some cutbacks in order to make the goals of the city to be cash flowing and be a positive without being subsidized by the city of Grand Rapids going forward. So that decision was made this evening as well. This would typically be the last meeting of 2017, but we have some issues that have come up here over this week, and so that we will be having a 3rd council meeting. So on the 20th, a week from Wednesday, we will be having another council meeting. I don't know, I guess we would actually have to call it a special council meeting. And based on what the issues and stuff that come up between now and then are, we will have a review again at that point in time on the 2017 remaining issues that come up. So with that, take care. Jeff Davies was in, talked a little bit about the snow removal and stuff that happened last night. If you remember last week when we were sitting here talking, I was telling you, as Jeff had said, we were looking at about a 99% chance that we were going to get 5 to 6, 7 inches of snow. So we pulled everybody off the street. They pulled off on the parking side. He had staff in and ready to go at 4 in the morning, and whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, depending on where you are from a snow standpoint, if you're a snowbird and you like to snowmobile and some of that, you were probably disappointed that we didn't get the snow. But last night was kind of an unanticipated, I believe. Jeff said we got about 1.4 inches, so typically, you know, it's a kind of do we or don't we go out. Well, the decision was made to go out. Our snow removal policy is very clear that from the start of fall into spring, you're supposed to move your vehicles off the street anyway if the anticipation is that there's some snow. So hopefully people and work with the Public Works Department and the city and the police department, and we can get this squared away. But all in all, thank you for your willingness to get out and get your vehicles off the street. It does help from the city standpoint of a speedy removal of snow on the streets all the way from the center line out to the curbs, which helps over the course of the winter keep them streets as wide as we can so that traffic can flow through. So with that, I look forward to doing a review on December 20th. Have a good evening.